thing, yeah, I'm probably going to actually delete the one Julius file because unlike the first game, because the map doesn't save, in this one you technically can't New Game Plus Julius, so I'll just delete. I'll just delete that and then Julius mode. Oh, you can make it fucking slow. But I really don't, damn it. That's why I don't like this. Drawing with a fucking control stick is a massive pain in the ass. Fuck, control sticks are imprecise. Who thought this was a good idea?
I might have ended up cutting in the middle of some of this, just...
Okay, everyone complains about this. Everyone complains about how how imprecise a control stick is. I've seen everyone complain about this.
I'm being a dick for the...
Fuck it, I'll go with that. I really don't care.
I'm being a dick for kind of the sake of being a dick.
Yeah, I'll just go with that.
The other day when I was thinking about, like, games we own and eventually playing weird Game Boy games that I own that I never beat. Have a Game Boy Harry Potter game I need to beat.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
What?
I said I forgot about that. And like,
I'm pretty sure it's a Game Boy version of Sorcerer's Stone, Game Boy Advance.
Wasn't one of the Game Boy Harry Potter games a fucking turn-based RPG? But I think it was one of the later movies.
No, I'm pretty sure that is the Game Boy Color version of the first movie. But I have the Game Boy Advance version of the first movie.
Oh, weird.
We should also get the PS1 version so we can have some PS1 Hagrid.
No.
Okay, everyone says the PS1 Harry Potter game is fine. Just want to play some Harry Potter games. We could get the PS1 game. And we could beat my Game Boy game. Because I never beat the Game Boy game. Because the Game Boy game I have is like an isometric puzzle game.
As you do. Like Julius mode in the first, well, I was going to say like Julius mode in the first game, you can kind of go anywhere, but not exactly. Not exactly the same. And actually, I should probably get a Yoko before getting Alucard.
Anyway.
Because while you can level up in Julius mode, I kind of don't like Julius mode. At least I didn't like the first playthrough, because I don't know if this was a result of the like way I played the game, and it's why I'm basically sort of trying to actually kill everything. I felt like I was kind of under leveled, and that Julius didn't have the damage output you had in the original. Go save again.
I'm probably about to die.
Okay, because Julius has the axe.
Yeah.
Julius has the axe as a sub-weapon, and the first boss, I believe the first boss is weak to slashing damage. That's why.
Oof.
That's why
Coughing.
Yeah, the axe
Yes.
it does pretty good damage against it, so I might not die.
Just have to beat the weird ass Game Boy games I own. I never actually beat. The Harry Potter game's not bad. I just never beat it because it's like a isometric puzzle game.
And we've been over this in the first recording and talking a bit about this off recording. A lot of games back then, especially children's license games, also Julius as sort of established in the first mode. You don't need to do the seal thing.
A lot of license.
It's sad because we actually have a lot of developers saying that this was the case. The reason so many children's license games, despite being, you know, marketed to kids, were like bullshit hard, or would get bullshit hard at like the beginning and then never be hard again. That was literally a mandate from the publisher because they were like, oh, if children beat the game too fast, they're not going to buy it because they beat it on a rental.
A mandate? That's kinda gay.
Didn't you make that same?
Yes! Every time. Because mandate. Because I made that joke because I believe someone literally, unironically, or they were trying to rage bait, did not know the word mandate, and literally thought mandate.
I feel like it's one of those. It was probably trying to rage bait, or to like talk about the game for a minute.
It's the word mandate.
Talk about the game for a minute. Julius is a lot like Julius in the first game, but because of the other playable characters, like. The backdash isn't as overpowered as it was. Also, your super jump isn't as overpowered because that's the super jump now. But it does kind of serve as a triple jump. And I think that attack still does damage.
Anyway.
Yoko, Julius, how rude of you to just run in without saying a word to me. Sorry, but this is my duty. I belong to the Belmont clan after all. Well, isn't that rather interesting? We Belmonts have fought alongside the Belmonts to defeat Dracula. That's true, but you don't have to bear the grief along. People support each other. I wish you would at least trust me a little more. You're right. I'm sorry. I do have faith in you. And me too.
And me and you.
And X to change, because X changes, I believe Portrait of Ruin, because it was the next game, is literally built off the same programming as this. Like I said, Hammer isn't here because it was cut, because I talked about that a bit. I don't remember if I specified this specifically or not, but for Hammer, like, I believe the dialogue that's still in the game's code is recruitment dialogue, you know, showing that he was going to be the fourth playable character. I've seen some people say cutting Hammer was actually a good thing, because having 4 characters to swap between, because it is just X that swaps between them, that would have gotten kind of cumbersome, because, like, and when you get multiple characters, I can't, like, multi-tap or anything to shuffle over. It only goes one way, and my 2 answers to that are: 1, they easily could have made, because they're both right, they're Hammer and Yoko optional, and 2, now this creates a small problem with an ability Alucard has, but A, doesn't do anything for Julius and Yoko, because that was that magic using attack for Solma. Alucard, that move actually, it does something, so you could have just had X and A are actually the 2 buttons that swap, and one goes to the character before you, the other goes to the character after. I'm now going to try to go get Alucard, but the Demon Guest House is very overpowered for this point in the game, so I might die. Like, You saw how many whips Persephone took. Women don't normally take that much.
Go, 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 go.
Like, look at that.
Oh. Ow.
Oh, wait, I can't go back. No way, I forgot this was connected to the shifting room. I can't go get Alcor at this point, damn it. And when I get lost and confused, I at least get experience out of it. Because you won't, like, you won't need it. I kind of feel like the end of Julius mode has a bit of an obnoxious difficulty spike.
Also, to kind of loop back around to the whole license game thing, because we talked about this for years. Because this is a thing. And I just find this funny because I had an argument with someone on and off for years where dude was far younger than I am, but he had just such a weird kind of elitist purist hard on for like games and stuff, while literally always ignoring my whole rental market thing. Which is hilarious, though I'm pretty sure he lived in a different area that was less fucked with that. Because that was a thing, and he just never took the whole rental market thing seriously. Which is hilarious, because that is a thing. Because we've talked about that for years, but to always remind...
Like I said, it's the one I've been bringing up recently, because I learned about it in a video recently. The reason Jak 2 is so much more difficult than the original, Sony apparently had a statistic that was like, too many people rented the original Jak and Daxter and beat the game on a rental, and Sony didn't like that, so Sony basically forced them to make the game way more bullshit and unforgiving and give it all the obnoxious difficulty spikes. So that's why that one, like, bomb mission where you have like a minute to race like halfway across the city or something is so bullshit. It was literally done so that you couldn't beat the game on a rental, because it's amazing to me that the concept of like anti-rental design, it's so amazing to me that that concept persisted into the PS2 and GameCube era.
Yes. To explain a little bit about that again, because not everyone sort of knows the full context in that nonsense. Like that one guy, because we talked about him for years, that I had sort of argued with, where he was younger than me. I actually think he was younger than Carson by like a year-ish. And yet this person, like this, basically... I think he was younger than Carson by 1 or 2 years, and yet this motherfucker talks like an old fucking man that sounded like 45, and he just would not have any, like, civil discussions, and he was always going on about, oh, difficulty, and, oh, my opinions on difficulty were invalid, because it's like I would talk about, you know, wanting saves and continues and shit. And he just never got my hang of and would always just ignore.
One, because you can... Oh, actually, you do need the one power. I can't remember if Julius had that at the start. So, unlike the first game, you're not as free reign as Julius in this game as opposed to the original, but I do kind of like that, because that gives it a slightly smoother curve, because remember in the first game, Julius mode, while you do have stats, they're invisible and they only level up when you collect the ball swords, whereas as you can see in this, you have actual levels.
Yes.
I hate these enemies.
Yes.
I'm not fighting them normally.
Back to my whole rant, because I haven't done this in a while, because I feel like every couple of years I need to go on this rant to remind people of the bullshit. And And to provide some context, because people also continue to date to often use this as a weird anti-Nintendo grift, even though it's a lot more complicated, where the shorter version of the story is basically Japan had a bunch of rules that applied to not video games initially, computer software, where it was basically deemed. People will often say it's illegal to do rentals in Japan, and that's technically not true. It's not that it's illegal, it's that you need the, like, software creator's permission.
Yes.
But that basically creates the simple solution of, hey, can I rent out this software? No. And you can't do anything if they tell you no, and you get fined like millions if you ignore that. So when video games came along, because technically I need to backstep, because initially in Japan that rental thing was not really a thing, but even in Japan, and this is just always funny to me because like, people will often act like the entirety of the Japanese population are a bunch of saints. But, basically, even in Japan, back before a bunch of laws were in place, places could just kind of rent out, like, floppy disks and stuff. And rental places often sold blank floppy disks. So, even in Japan, like, people literally rented, like, floppy disks and bought blank ones and then returned their rental super quickly.
Yes.
So even in Japan, people were...
I believe this was a few years ago that it might have changed, but I don't see why it would. The country with the largest amount of anime piracy is actually Japan.
Yes, but... Going back to the story, though, because I, every few years, need to go on this rant. Because this is an actual thing, especially since lately, people are once again doing that misconstrued thing that bothers me, but to get to that, I need to explain. So, like, you could do rentals and stuff, and then companies got annoyed that people were basically like renting their crap and making illegal copies. So Japan basically had all of these companies come together and form a lawsuit where it's like, oh, we're not going to make renting straight out illegal, but we're going to basically heavily control it, where in order to rent things, you need to ask permission and meet our terms. Which was also a way to basically do, like, a funny thing of a lot of companies, their rental agreement would be like, oh, you want to rent my, like, software and shit? Well, that's going to be, like, 20 million yen, please. You just have to do a one-time payment of, like, 20 million yen. And, you know, most shops are not just going to sit there and do, like...
I know the boss is right there, but I want to find him at level... I want to be level 10.
Most shops are not going to pay absorbent fees, but...
Also, because of stopping to do small grinding like this at points, Julius might be 2 recordings. Maybe. I don't know.
Basically, 2? Oh, getting it. Word vomit. I was trying to say, basically, to get back to the point, when video games came along, the protections that were already applied to, like, floppy disks and stuff, were basically given to video games. So, in Japan, video game rentals became tied to the same protection of like computer software. If you wanted to rent a game, you would need the permission of the IP holder, or if not the direct permission, you would need to pay their like rental fee, which so many like normally it was permission, but some companies to give you permission would say, yeah, just give us like 50 million yen or some shit. Because if someone actually paid that, you're getting like 50 million yen. And they knew that like if someone were to pay, it's like, well, they just pocketed, you know, large amounts of money. But if someone doesn't have that money, which most rental shops would be nowhere close to, you're just not getting rentals, so there were no rentals. And video games in Japan had that rental protection. So America actually had some similar laws, kind of, for more traditional computer software, but this is also where people, and this is funny because this is tangentially related to emulation, especially because multiple parts in the main game, I made fun of people that clearly don't understand why emulating the Switch while it was on the market was a dumb idea, but America basically had some general laws, and the general laws that America had pretty much stated, like, oh, creating backups of stuff you own for personal use is completely legal, though this backup law was sort of back in the day where in America you could create floppy disks, but companies still didn't want people doing piracy, but personal backups were generally seen as fine. So, to get back to the point, because all of this is related, so Nintendo basically comes to America and helps revive the video game market. And Nintendo basically, when they're, you know, starting to exist in America, they know that America does have protections for computer software, because even with a lot of laws about personal backups existing, America basically...
Oh wait, no, I forgot you actually don't need to get the powers. You really can just break the plots. I completely forgot. They literally removed like all touchscreen gimmicks.
Yes.
But I want to fight all the bosses anyway.
Anyway.
So I will try to do that. I completely forgot. Julius removes literally like all touchscreen functions.
Back to my ramble. So, even with America having more lax rights for personal backups, because that was a thing that had happened, America still had rules in place where, like, software was protected, and Nintendo was, like, you know, the big game company. Now, damn it. While explaining this nonsense, I'm going to also make statements that no one ever does, because I do get tired of the dumb narrative involved here, but basically, yes, Nintendo specifically had a beef, because in America, they tried to make an argument, video games should be protected with the same rules that, like, America has for protecting software, and those same protections about making, like, copies and stuff. And, like, renting games and stuff should be illegal, but unlike in Japan, where video games were declared computer software, and they were in the same wheelhouse, Nintendo, while they did kind of start the nonsense, first of all, basically third parties that made games on the NES also had a beef. While I'm doing this rant, I just need to say this because this always bothers me, especially in a modern sense, because people are once again doing the, oh, evil, greedy Nintendo. But evil, greedy Nintendo? People act like Nintendo solely were the only ones spearheading, like, the arguments that video games need heavy protection. Except, while it was the NES, third-party publishers, because no one is ever going to do this, because I will be a dick while I'm, you know, kind of going through the story here. People want Nintendo to be the bad guy, so no one ever talks about how the third-party publishers that were not Nintendo that made games on the NES were just as pissed off about video games and the whole American rental market, especially because third-party publishers early on in the NES life were companies from Japan, so they all had the same belief that Nintendo did, where they were all mad that America allowed rentals, because all of these third-party publishers initially were Japanese companies. And a couple of American companies, but it was mostly the Japanese side that made a big stink, because Japan had different rules, but basically a court ruled against the NES hearing, because what they said at the time was basically completely true, that video games for the NES should not have the same sort of regulations and copy protection rules as normal computer software, because they said the NES uses proprietary game cartridges, and they basically said that unlike a floppy disk where you can get blank ones and you could make, like, dubious copies, they basically said the NES is too proprietary and no one has a, like, home version of a, like, you know, marketable at-home cartridge creator. So they basically said video games, because of their proprietary nature, shouldn't have protections because it is a proprietary thing. But this basically made video game companies mad. So when video game companies couldn't get rentals basically regulated like they are in Japan, since again the early third parties were Japanese companies, and it was mostly the Japanese companies making a big stink out of this, not just Nintendo on their own. The Japanese companies basically all collectively started what we talked about at the beginning there, where in America, because the rental market was not basically something that was super regulated, you could actually rent games in America, and unlike Japan, the companies that made the games could basically not tell you, oh no, you need my permission. Sorry, local mom and pop shop, you need my permission to rent my game, so I didn't give you permission. Because they didn't get that, these companies all caught on to the fact that you could technically rent a game and, like, beat it on a rental, and they didn't like the whole beating it on a rental thing because they basically didn't consider that.
Even though some people I've seen, recently over the past few years and uptaken, oh, no, that wasn't it. Japan just thought America liked super hard games. When, except...
Oh, hey, Bloody Tears.
Oh, yeah, the Julius mode places the music here with Bloody Tears. I forgot about that.
That's what this is.
Yes. The only good thing to come out of Simon's Quest. No.
Back to the fucking point. Basically, companies got mad that America allowed rentals. And in order to make games harder to beat on a single rental, games in America were made harder. And if a game was made harder in America, it was always to fuck with the rental market. Even if the thing that was made harder was literally, like, the funniest type of that is what we talked about, where it's not like the entire game is harder, it's just like...
It's literally just like one, like, a moment or something.
And it's often like, okay, we'll let them get like 10 minutes in, then bust their little prepubescent balls. Which is a good example of that, because we talk about this. People often wondered why the Lion King game, the level where you're playing...
The level for I Just Want to Be a King.
I Just Can't Wait to Be King. It's the name of the song. The I Just Can't Wait to Be King level will bust your little balls for, like, no reason. Disney literally mandated that.
Yeah, let's be,
Yes.
Because the suits were like, kids can't get...
X amount of percentage done in X amount of time, because as video games started to grow in popularity, all companies, Japanese or otherwise, sort of came to the same conclusion. Wait, because even the American companies that weren't 100%...
like, as an example, the Lion King game that was made by Westwood, which is I believe they're an American developer. Well, they were an American developer.
I thought...
They might have been British. I can't remember. The guy absorbed...
I thought the Lion King game was Virgin.
I thought it was Westwood. It was a company that got absorbed by EA later on.
Isn't it
It might have been Virgin.
Virgin made a Disney game. Dang it.
Oh, damn it. Virgin made a few.
On.
Damn it, game. I just want to find a fucking save point. Where the fuck was the save point here? There's always...
On.
There's always one relatively close to the start of a... There's a save point close to the start of a zone.
Okay. Lion King was Westwood. I think Virgin's Aladdin.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, I believe that's it. Virgin is,
Wait, hold on. No! Okay. We both were right.
It's both of them?
No. What's the other thing that happens with games?
I don't... Just say what it is.
Who published it?
Oh.
Virgin's the publisher, Westwood was the developer.
Oh yeah, because Disney Interactive wasn't a thing back then.
Exactly.
God, that's...
Yeah.
That's fucking weird to me.
Meaning you were not wrong. You were right. It's developed by Westwood. I was like, what does Virgin have to do with this? Virgin was the publisher. This is why you Google things. I never inherently said you were wrong, but my mind was like, why was Virgin Interactive in my head? Westwood was the developer. Virgin was the publisher because Disney didn't have a publishing.
Disney didn't have Disney Interactive back then.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing to think about.
Yes.
That's like a funny thing as I've been waiting to.
Go back to my one.
There's
Okay.
There's the boss. There's a save up here.
Okay.
The funny thing,
Go back to my rant a second.
that's like a funny thing with that is well, first before that because coming up is the. It's the fight against the one guy because he copies magic. If you hit him with any magic, it's best to... Because that's super short range and super... So yeah, this is how you cheese this fighting Julius mode. If not this, Holy Water is another easy cheese because of it going across the ground. It's easy to jump across any way. Like a funny example, given what we're playing, Konami was another company that was super notorious for like changing the difficulty of things because a bunch of games people thought weren't made harder actually were. Like Contra is a game where the US version is harder because I believe it starts on rotation 3. It starts on cycle 3 as opposed to cycle 1, and a lot of games where I'm sure boomers would be ready to like type in, this game wasn't rentaled. You might want to actually go look it up because the way a bunch of games had their difficulty altered, like I said, they would start on later cycles. That's what a bunch of Konami's games did.
Motherfucker, Castlevania 1 in America literally increases the damage!
No, it's not 1, it's 3. Castlevania 3 is the game where instead of enemies doing damage based on the enemy, how it works...
I'm pretty sure 1 does that.
No, it's only 3.
I thought 1 increased it.
No.
Okay, 3 does... Damn it. Not inherently the point. 3 does that. 1, I thought, also made enemies... I think 1 tweaked something that's not the Japanese version. I swear someone said in...
It wouldn't surprise me if 1 was what I just said, which is basically, 1 starts on like a later cycle compared to the Japanese version.
3 I can look into that. But back to the ramble, because I kind of got out of it.
Damn it.
So...
And this is why I ran back and said...
Yes. Anyway. All these companies started getting mad that video games could theoretically be beaten on a rental, and that if someone beat a game on a rental...
They would be less likely to buy it.
Yes. And not just less likely to buy it, it was all companies... doing the thing about, like, oh, the, like, oh, the, you know, rental store bought a copy, and they paid, like, whatever amount of money, but that's the one copy, but they're just basically giving that copy away. So, theoretically, not just that people are less likely to buy it, but, like, oh, theoretically, their single copy could be rented by 1,000 people.
Yes.
And 1,000 people could basically...
And if 1,000 people beat it on a rental without buying it, you've lost 1,000 sales.
Yes. That. So, video games in America were made harder. And this is an actual thing. And it's why when I argued with that one person on and off for years where he just wouldn't listen.
Because like I said, I don't know when the fuck this narrative started. At some point a narrative became a thing. Oh, it wasn't because of the rental market. Like I said, it was just, a bunch of like Japanese developers just thought America loved hard games and that was the reason. Except we then have shit like the whole developers of The Lion King saying,
Oh no, Disney basically told us a child cannot beat X amount of game in X amount of time. For similar reasons, because all developers sort of came to the same conclusion, but to loop back to what people were doing recently again, because people again need a beef with Nintendo, and that one video I was making fun of was dredging this up again, because Nintendo technically did instigate, but to always act like Nintendo were the sole people behind this nonsense pisses me off. Or that one video, like, talking about, you know, oh, evil, greedy Nintendo, and then tons of people and stuff also doing the, like, oh, Nintendo's always been greedy. Remember, Nintendo tried to sue Blockbuster to get game rentals made illegal, and Nintendo was basically told, that's dumb, fuck off. And that goes to the whole, oh, rentals can't be illegal or anything because games are too proprietary. No one can copy an NES game because no one has a, like, home kit to make NES cartridges. And they knew that they couldn't beat Blockbuster, so Nintendo had to come up with something nonsensical to basically stop Blockbuster from doing rentals. So Nintendo made up that thing that the manuals were protected under copyright. And then they didn't sue Blockbuster over renting games. They sued Blockbuster over giving away copies of the manual. And that worked somehow! And people act like that was just Nintendo and no one else. When most companies that worked with Nintendo ended up just as pissed off at the whole rental thing.
Everyone hated rentals. All my homies hate rentals.
It wasn't just a Nintendo thing.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the whole, like, you know, Konami basically making a bunch of games artificially more difficult, or, you know, something else, was because I love wheeling out a checklist of games that got rentaled, like, over on, you know, Sega was the Sega Genesis. Streets of Rage 3 got its difficulty unnecessarily made harder because it was a super late Genesis game, so it was rentals. Same with Dynamite Headdy. It was always because of rentals.
Because all companies...
Or even way farther into the fucking PS1 was Capcom, the original Resident Evil. It had its difficulty altered basically because of the rental market.
And also, even with the whole Blockbuster thing, because Nintendo was mad and did the whole manual thing, Blockbuster continued to do rental things. They just stopped photocopying the manuals. That didn't make...
Also, the photocopying the manuals technically would be... I don't think it would technically be copyright infringement. I think it would technically be trademark infringement.
No! There are two? Copyright and trademark are similar, yet different.
Man is very weak to ice.
Yes. Hold on. Okay, let me do a side tangent because people get confused on copyright and trademark.
Ah, shit. I was about to fucking say again. I was like, how the fuck did that not hit me? But it did. Ha! Bitch! Yoko can actually deal good ice damage.
Both copyright and trademark are similar and different, and both things do apply, but because they overlap a lot, because you have to remember why it kind of technically falls into a little bit of both. Literally, like, the term trademark is literally called that because it's like the mark of the mark of trade.
Yes.
Whereas copyright is...
My point is photocopying the manual would be would fall under, I'm pretty sure, the same protection of like photocopying a book. It would basically be protected in the same way. And also, this is a moment I can bring up the side tangent of a lot of people would always question why several like strategy guides and shit would always have that one moment that's like wrong or something that's bullshit. Like a very notorious example is the official Earthbound guide saying that the one Kraken boss dropped the Gutsy Bat when that's not a thing. Apparently that was so they basically they knew that fact was bullshit, and they would literally put it in there so that if they saw any other strategy guide saying that, they know that they just photocopied basically the official guide. So that's why, like, every strategy guide will always have that one thing that is just objectively wrong. Oh, hey, Alucard. You're late, Julius. Alucard.
I want to get the exact charges that were placed, so I can use the correct terms here.
It doesn't matter, right? It transformed to draw out my full power. He's growing so powerful that you have to go that far. Yes, failure isn't an option. I need your help. That's why I came. You have my trust. Now we have Alucard. Personally, I think the worst character out of the three, because he has just the basic sword. He doesn't have a slide. The only good thing Alucard has is the bat form, except it...
The photocopying of manuals was an infringement of copyright.
Yeah.
I had it.
I said it...
Because the main difference copyright is...
Because I have Alucard. Like I said.
The main difference between copyright and trademark, but why they're so intertwined and very samey. Copyright is literally the owner's right to stop.
My point basically is, it, like I said, it would be literally like photocopying a book, and that was why I brought up the thing related to like strategy guides and shit, where a way, because, you know, with a strategy guide, well, lining out a strategy, a lot of times something could technically tell you basically the same, like, thing, and word it in a, like, basically the same way, and it's not plagiarism, you just described it in, basically...
Okay, I literally reading through the case of Blockbuster, because no one ever actually says what actually happened on it. Congress was lobbied by the Software Publishers Association as well as Microsoft.
Huh. Funny.
The Word Perfect Corporation and Nintendo. It's not just Nintendo on their own. Even fucking Microsoft showed up.
Even Microsoft back then.
Because they were all big mad.
Yeah,
it's not just evil greedy Nintendo. And it was copyright. Because the main difference between copyright and trademark. Copyright is literally the protection of, like, copy and distribution. Whereas trademark is the mark of your trade. But the reason those get intertwined a lot is by proxy when dealing with the, like... Because what trademark is supposed to be is the mark of your trade, which is supposed to be, like, names and symbols and stuff associated with you. And the idea of a trademark is that's supposed to be something that tells people that this is your crap. Which is why most trademark things are... Which is why for brands, most trademark things are a symbol that is usually synonymous with the brand. Like if I say McDonald's, most people are going to think of the one thing immediately.
Yeah, it's the golden orange.
There you go. Carson said it. That's trademark.
Keep fucking catching waddle enemies.
The Golden Arch thing became a trademark symbol. Yes, I'm using McDonald's in a discussion about Nintendo because it makes a point.
Well, it makes a point, because...
Man's looking very symphony.
It is literally his symphony sprite. Like, it literally is. There's no bit here. Remember, like I said, Ego was given very notoriously a low budget, so that... When you basically play one of these games and are like, that's a sprite from a blank, the answer is because man was basically always given the same budget, which was always extremely low. And like, I know it is a handheld, it's one of those, I know it's a handheld game, but even with handheld games on, the funny thing is, like, oh my, did I bullshit to...
This even
did I bullshit to the Puppet Master, or did I bullshit to Paranoia?
This even mentions...
Oh, Puppet Master.
This even mentions in America, we actually did limit and ban a lot of video game rentals. Just not...
Well, like, early on.
No, during Nintendo... This literally said... Congress passed the Computer Software Rental Amendment. No, the Computer Software Rental Amendment Act. Prohibiting software rentals, except they excluded Nintendo because their cartridges were too proprietary. So no, even America had a anti-rental thing, but it had to be a game on a floppy disk.
But fucking no one in the 80s was playing like Amiga games or whatever.
It was argued Nintendo's content was too proprietary. Which I don't think is an unreasonable take. People often make fun of court cases and say that they don't know what they're talking about, but the courts basically did have a solid point, like, no one could just go to their local computer store and literally buy a Nintendo cartridge creator.
Ow.
And this was decades before people would be able to rip NES games.
Yes. Ow.
Which can be done in a modern sense, except in order to rip NES games in a modern sense, you need specialized tools.
No, to talk about the game for a minute, you technically, like, Yoko is completely optional, and you can, she is completely optional and you can skip her. Or the only one you need to, like, actually beat the game is Alucard, because he has the bat form. Because you need the bat form to get through the little puppet areas and use, well, the bat transformation.
My point, to sort of loop back, because we were talking about this for quite a while, but I think it's a valid point. First of all, several companies came together to work with Nintendo for the whole rental thing. It's not just evil, greedy Nintendo. The literal court case versus Blockbuster. Microsoft is mentioned, but you're never going to, fuck you, Microsoft, trying to get rentals banned. Like, no one ever does, oh, evil, greedy Microsoft was so petty, they tried to get Blockbuster's rentals banned.
Well, because Microsoft wasn't making games back then, so of course no one's going to bring it up. That's why I find it interesting that even they were included in that, because, you know, they weren't, like, well, I say they weren't making games back then, but because of it being Microsoft, I think, when did Microsoft Flight Simulator first come out? Because that, like...
They made a bunch of PC games, and they actually did make some NES games. There are a couple of NES games Microsoft made.
Or at that point it would be published.
I'm pretty sure they developed, because Microsoft is a computer company. It's Microsoft Windows.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
They made computer software! They made games!
Yes. which is why I love bringing up that funny thing of in Conquer Live and Reloaded, they had an idea where they wanted to add basically a gate named Bill, and this gate named Bill was going to complain about why all the windows of his barn keep breaking. Microsoft rejected this.
Yes. I think they made an NES game. Hold on.
Ow. Asshole.
Just trying to.
Like,
I think there might. Trying to get a clear answer to that because I never fully remember this. I think there was one. If it wasn't in the NES era, I think a flight sim or something's on the SNES.
ow.
I'm doing some Googling.
Use the crosshair. Something else interesting about Julius in this game is Whip actually does not have the Holy Attribute. So if you only get the Holy Attribute through the cross and holy water. Because something else interesting, if you hack the game, you can actually spawn basically Julius like weapons and stuff as like equipment for Usalma. You can actually equip the Vampire Killer as a weapon for Salma and see its stats, because because if I remember correctly, in Julius mode, I think this goes for basically I think this goes for all of the like bonus characters basically in all of the like Igavanias. They basically actually have invisible like armor and equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, I have to go up and around because I have the puppet, and now I'm trying to remember the order of this, because while playing this, I also been playing like a Portrait of Ruin, running through its New Game Plus hard mode. So I'm having to remember the progression of both games simultaneously. Or I think this is too far. Because there's that spot where you can use the puppet in one of these rooms, and I don't remember which.
Okay, yeah, first of all, to make a point, Microsoft had been making video games since 1979.
I said, I was like, how old is Microsoft Flight Sim? And then I remembered, oh wait, there was that skiing game that had the Yeti in it that scared the shit out of everyone when they played it as a kid, because you're just skiing and then the Yeti basically runs down the ski, and if they catch you, they eat you.
Yes.
And
Yeah, the old versions of Flight Simulator were like really old.
I get the... In this mode, I get the idea of... Wait, I think it's in this part of the castle, not the other part. Yeah, because this is the... connected to that section that has the big...
It's time for the question of the day and my overall thoughts on the topic. So, anyway, how many of you get the point I was trying to make with my rant about the rental market? Because I basically am sick and tired of people, A, acting like that never happened, or B, acting like Nintendo is the sole reason all of that nonsense happened, even if tons of other developers collectively agreed with Nintendo, because everyone was basically fucking over games to fuck over the rental market, so that wasn't just Nintendo. And unlike the one crazy conspiracy that comes up from time to time will basically state, no, Nintendo did not mandate that people do that. Everyone collectively decided to do that because everyone collectively decided the same thing. Wait a minute. Thousands of people could potentially rent a game, and that would mean we would potentially lose thousands of sales. We can't be having that. I'm not saying Nintendo was never involved, but Christ almighty, everyone was doing that. And I remember that weird baseless conspiracy where people said, oh no, Nintendo basically strong-armed companies into doing that by making threats that they would basically blacklist those companies from ever making a game on a Nintendo system. So people basically believe Nintendo strong-armed all of these developers and companies into helping them by basically going, oh, that's a fancy dev kit you have there. It would be a shame if something happened to it. It would be a shame if you got blacklisted from ever making a game on a Nintendo console. Oh, wouldn't that be unfortunate? But if you help us with this rental market nonsense, all of those weird inconveniences might just fade away. And then it would be like nothing at all happened. When, no, that's not a thing. Because everyone was big mad. Because all game companies came to the same conclusion. They could theoretically lose thousands of sales, and they can't be having that now. Because that would mean a lot of money is theoretically lost, because if someone theoretically beats a game over the weekend on a rental, that is basically a theoretical lost sale, because someone who beat the game would be less likely to buy the game. So every company was basically pissed off. And again, I'm not saying Nintendo was never involved, but no one ever gives any crap to any of the other companies that were involved in that nonsense. And while Nintendo suing Blockbuster was a bit petty, that was a violation of copyright. So Nintendo technically was 100% legally okay. They had every legal right to do what they did. And I do kind of understand that, even if I will agree that was a bit petty. Because the second conspiracy that came from that nonsense was, oh, Nintendo realized they would probably stop doing the photocopying of the manual, but oh, tee-hee, the manual is super important in so many video games. This will make it even harder for someone to beat a game on a rental. This is so evil and so perfect. Even though, again, multiple companies were involved in all of this nonsense. And yes, I know I'm getting way off topic here, but I just wanted to basically say my point about that because all of this collectively bothers me. But anyway, I do need to wrap this up. To get back on topic, I will basically say this. Nintendo was involved, and I will never contest that. But God almighty damn, it bothers me that no one ever gives any other company shit when most other companies were basically just as fucking crazy. But oh, evil, greedy Nintendo, because we basically need ammo to shut down evil, greedy Nintendo. Even though it's been proven that all these other companies were basically just as fucking crazy. And again, no, Nintendo did not talk to these companies and coerce them into any of this. But like I said, I'm starting to get off topic again, and I don't want to ramble. So anyway, you can leave your thoughts, opinions, and answers in the comments, or you can leave them on social media. All of my social media links, as well as my Discord links, are in the video description. Now, as always, I need to be a shill for a minute. If you subscribe to the channel, and if you follow me on social media, that really helps our communities grow. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope I will see you all next time. So, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. I hope we come back someday. See you later.